time. So I want to just go ahead and get started promptly.
And I just want to, may I welcome everyone?
Sure.
I just want to say welcome to Sewa, and am I pronouncing it correctly? Sewa Contreras. She is, first of all, I'm MJ. I'm a board member here, and I want to welcome everyone to our 4th History Speaks lecture. And I'm so excited to have our wonderful speaker, Sewa. She is going to speak on plants as medicine, community healing, and she teaches harvesting of medicinal plants. So let's give Sewa I just have a couple of quick business items before we go on. I just want to give the floor to another board member, Larry Peters, and he's going to say a few words and introduce somebody special. Let's give Larry a big hand.
Welcome to the home of the Historical Society of Desert Hot Springs. We finally have one. And it's kind of a treasure, don't you think? I mean, when you come in here, isn't it like a really special place where you think someone made this with their hands, and you feel the family. You see their picture back there, and it is our home, and it costs us money to live here, to keep this place, and it's probably not quite as much as your house, but it would surprise you how much. So we're always looking for ways to increase our funds, and I'll talk about that in a second. But first, I want to give just a minute to the V word, that volunteer word that scares people. Oh, he's going to ask us to do something. I'm just going to ask you to, does anybody here like maps? I'm like a person who can look at a map for like an hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours and never get sick of it. We do that here on Friday. Anybody fascinated by old brochures? Like you might see one from a spa from 1960. I saw one from 1952 here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all here. Newspaper clippings, interesting things that people have thought were important to keep. We look through those every time. So if you're interested in that, please think about not volunteering, but coming to enjoy some of that. Some of you may have seen that we have in this back corner a vegetable garden. We picked tomatoes yesterday, so it's really working. It was a demonstration for a lecture that we had here in December. We're going to be having different gardens here around the perimeter. A desert rose garden, a cactus garden, a butterfly garden. We plan to bring monarchs back to Desert Hot Springs. Do any of you remember when they were here? We have some people who have said they remembered flocks of them would fly through. Help us bring those back, okay? Anyway, that corner is where the archive landed after we moved about a year ago. And along with it came the person who knows just pretty much everything there is to know about that archive. I call her our institutional memory. And we would like to honor her today, Marge Snell, who's our volunteer of the month. Institutional memory is when there are people who know things that nobody else knows. And you have to get that from those people. It's generation stuff. And Marge is the repository, and we treasure her knowledge and her volunteerism, which the V word has gone on for 5 years, and she never stops. She's here 4 hours Friday from 10 to 2, and I hope some of you will do that. Last thing I want to say real fast is that we are going to be doing a fundraiser that involves memorial bricks. The first pathway will be in the back here between the archway and the vegetable garden. Just a regular size brick in memory of graduated high school this year, bought a house in Desert. Those are all history, guys. Yeah. Somebody graduates from high school, that's history, isn't it? Yeah. Just because it's on a personal level or on a community level doesn't mean it's not history. The same when somebody moves into a new house. Well, they made Desert Hot Springs history. And that's part of what this brick fundraiser is going to be. And all I can ask is that you keep your eye out for it. and there'll be an opportunity, because we're not going anywhere. If you want a memorial that'll be here in 100 years, the brick path will be. So that's it for me. Thank you guys. Enjoy this.
Thank you, Marge. She is our absolute wonderful person here. So without further ado, make sure your cell phones are on mute. And so, thank you. We're so excited to hear from you. And let's give Sewa a hand.
My name is Sewa Buwewa Contreras, and thank you all for inviting me here to speak and share the words that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to be sharing what we call medicine wheel teachings. So just really quickly, I did bring my medicine wheel with me here today, and this image basically reminds us that all the people in the world, the 4 colors of the people that the Creator made, are represented here. We're all connected to each other in this beautiful wheel. The 4 directions are represented here. Also, the 4 seasons that each living thing goes through on this planet are represented in the medicine wheel, as well as the 4 ancestors or elements that make up not only the earth, the planet, but each and every single one of us. So we are connected to the earth in that way. When I speak, I do like to hold one of the feathers that I was gifted for completing different ceremonies, but most recently I completed a Vision Quest ceremony. It's a 4-year commitment, and each year that you finish, you receive an eagle feather. Once I completed those 4 ceremonies, I was able to build a medicine lodge at my home. So you now have a medicine lodge in Desert Edge, where I do have open sweat lodge for the public so that I can teach and heal people. But I did want to just point out to you that I will be teaching you some medicine wheel teachings today. And we teach in the traditional way by telling stories. So every story that I share with you is a personal experience, and I hope that my stories bless you in some way today. So first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about my name. The name Sewa Buwewa means flower of hope in the Yaqui language. I am a member of the Yaqui Nation of Southern California. So Sewa does mean flower, Buwewa means hope. And I was given that name when I was 2 months old by one of our tribal leaders, Anselmo Valencia. And my parents told me the story that when I was born, my parents had been going through some trouble in their relationship. And when they called Anselmo to tell them that their baby was going to be born, he said, "Tell me a little bit about what you're experiencing." And they told him, "Well, we're hoping that, this child will help the relationship. We're kind of having some trouble." And he said, I'm going to pray about it, and then I'll come back to you. So it took him 2 months, but when he came back to them, he said, "Your baby's name is Sewa Buwewa, flower of hope." And for the longest time, my parents told me, well, because we thought you were going to, bring our relationship back together. So it was hope that we were looking for. And I went most of my life with that story, thinking that was my purpose. But my parents did not stay together. So I was kind of like, maybe I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? But when I went to Vision Quest and I completed my Vision Quest, the spiritual leader there, his name is Alex Alvarez, he said, Sewa, now that you have seen what you have seen in your Vision Quest and you've received the messages that your ancestors have given you, your name, Sewa Buwewa, doesn't have anything to do with your parents. It has to do with you and what you're going to bring to the world now. This is your purpose. So the flower of hope that you are is not about a past relationship. It's about who the Creator made you to be and what you're going to bring to the world through your your presence and your walk. And so with that, I want to also say that I'm a mother. I have 4 children. I'm a wife. Been married for 16 years to my amazing husband. And I work at Sam's Family Spa, which is just down Dillon Road. And I remember driving past that place several times, and something always said, like, called me there. And I didn't know why, but finally one day I said, oh, what the heck, I'm almost home, I'll just stop in real quick. And I drove in there, I parked, and I walked in the office, and I said, what do you guys do here? Because there was an office, and I thought it was just a mobile home community. And they said, oh, well, we sell day passes. People come and they soak in the hot water here. And I thought, well, there's a lot of those around here, you know? What's so special about this place? And then they walked me through and they said, you know, every morning we fill these pools and they get drained in the evening, and throughout the day they're free flowing. That means we don't ever have to put any chemicals or chlorine in our hot mineral waters. They have the highest healing potential of any of the spas out here. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Maybe that's why I'm here. And they said, come over here, we're gonna show you this lake that Sam built when he built this place. That water flows into this lake, and I looked over at it, and there was fishes just trying to, you know, jump out. They thought I was gonna feed them. There was ducks that came over right away, and there was little turtles in the water. And I went, well, all those animals live in here? They said, yeah, the water blesses all of these animals. But then this water is connected to the irrigation system, and we use this lake water to feed all the plants in the park, and the water returns to the earth where it came from, without chemicals, without anything that would harm the earth or the water below. And I said, that's why I'm here, because I want to protect this water. I want to make sure that I do whatever I can to keep this place available to people to come to get real healing here. Because as Native people, we have areas, sacred areas, where we still go and we soak in the hot mineral water, and it's just in a natural pool. But when people learn about that, sometimes those sacred places are broken into, or they're used without permission. And so to have a place that the public can come to and receive that same healing, I thought was very special. So I chose to work there, and that's where I work now. But my mission isn't my job. My mission is to help teach others about the sacredness of the medicines that are here, how to respect them, how to protect them, and how to use them so that you can heal yourselves, your families, and your communities. All right, so I have a creosote story I want to share with you. One of my very favorite medicines here in the desert is the creosote, and you'll see this growing all over the desert. It grows from here all the way down to Mexico, and as far east as like Texas. Just is everywhere. I have a very special connection to this plant, and I'm going to share the story of how I connected with this plant with you. My first year of Vision Quest, I was not prepared. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that I would be praying and fasting for 4 days in nature with no food or water. And I was a little afraid because I get grumpy when I don't eat, first of all. And I do my Vision Quest in Tucson, where the Yaqui reservation is. And I know that it's desert, it's hot, and I was a little worried about not being able to have water out there, but I thought, you know, I chose to do my Vision Quest so I could pray for my sister, because she had just told me that she was diagnosed with cancer. And I said, if my sister's gonna fight cancer, I can fight the hunger and the thirst for a few days and pray for her. So before they put us up on the hillside where we sit and we pray, we're each in an individual spot, so we're alone. They said, listen, how many of you are afraid? And I'll say this as well before I go on. The year my first Vision Quest was in, I believe, 2019. And that year was the first year that they only had women going up on that hill to pray. And the man that put us up there said, I've been doing Vision Quest for a long time, many, many years. This is the first year that we've only had women go up, and there's 10 women. That's a very auspicious number. It's very good. It means that there's a balance that's coming back to this planet and to this time right now. But he said, how many of you are afraid of being hungry? And I was like, me, I'm afraid of being hungry. And he said, you will get hungry, but when you get hungry, you need to ask the Creator for the spirit food. And he said, you don't have to worry so much about being hungry as being thirsty. Because the human body can go many, many days without eating, but it can only go a few days without water. So you're going to be thirsty. And when you're thirsty, ask the Creator for the spirit water. And I wasn't prepared, and I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but I just told myself, well, I'm here, so I guess I'll find out what that means. And we did what we had to do, and we went up on the hill, and I remember sitting out in the sun, and you're in an area that is cleared so that there isn't any rocks or plants or anything growing. It's just you, your blankets, your medicines, and yourself. You don't even have a tent or an umbrella or a hat. So I was looking around and I was trying to get creative, and I did have a sarape, and there was this creosote bush growing in my spot that they hadn't taken out. They just kept it there. And I remember when we went to clear my space, I was like, are we going to take this out? And my tribal chairman said, no, we're going to leave that there. That's medicine. And that's really good medicine. So we're not going to take that out of the ground. We're just going to leave it there. Okay. So I looked at this bush and I thought, you're going to help me get out of the heat a little bit. And I put my sarape over the bush, and I laid on the ground with my head in the shade, and I was trying to just get, some relief from the sun. And on your first year, they come by and they check on you to just make sure you're doing okay. And my tribal chairman came in, he checked on me, and he seen me laying with my head under the bush, and he goes, hey Sewa, how are you doing? And they don't look at you in the eyes because they want you to stay focused, but they just want to check on you and see if you're okay. And I said, I'm okay, but it's really hot. I feel like I'm drying out up here. And he said, okay, remember what Alex said, when you are thirsty, ask for the spirit water. When you're hungry, ask for the spirit food. And I was just like, I still don't know what that means, but okay, I'm here, right? And he sat a little while longer, and he goes, look around at all the plants around you. And I looked, and he goes, we're in the desert and they're all green, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, that's because the plants know where to find the water. They're not drying out. They're not thirsty. So if you really are thirsty, ask these plants for the water. Ask them where they find the water. And again, I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay, I'm here, right? I might as well give it a shot. So he left, and I was laying there, and I got really, really quiet, and I put all the thoughts out of my mind. And that little creosote bush, she was just there with me, and I took the bush, and I took her little leaves in my hand. I'm still laying on the ground, right? And I go, I'm thirsty. And then I just waited. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I just waited, and I got very quiet, and I just let all the thoughts leave my mind. I sat quietly in the meditation, and the plant spoke to me. Not an audible voice, but there was a knowing that was there that wasn't there before. And what she said was, if you're thirsty, ask our mother for the water. She's the one that gives us everything. The earth gives us everything. So ask her for the water. And so I go, okay, this is what I'm here to learn. I took my hands and I just put them in the dirt. And I told the earth, Mama, I'm thirsty. Just like a little kid would ask their mama for a drink of water, right? Mama, I'm thirsty. And I got really quiet again, and I just waited. And the thought came, and she said, if you want me to feed you, you have to lay on my body. Like a child lays on the mother's breast, just skin to skin, that's how I can feed you. And I remember when I set up my camp, which wasn't really a camp, but I laid all my things out, they told me, bring 2 tarps. Put one on the ground, under your blankets, so that they're not wet from, moisture in the morning. And one, if it rains, because they said, you might be here in the rain, you might be here in the snow, you might be here in the heat. So have it a second tarp, because if it rains, you want to be able to put that over you, so to just shelter you in some way from the rain. So I lifted the tarp back that my blankets were on, and I just put my hand under there. And that earth was just so cool and moist. It felt so good, and I was so hot and dried out. I just pulled that tarp over and laid right on the dirt. I covered myself with it, and my body just absorbed all the moisture from the earth. And it was like I was sitting in like a nice, cool, air-conditioned room. And I was like, oh, thank you, Mama. And my body just drank up all that water. And after that, every day, at the hottest time of the day, I just pull that tarp over, I lay down on the ground, and I just lay there and I do my prayer meditation under that tarp and the blanket. I make sure that the blanket's over the tarp, because tarp's only plastic, so it'll still dry out if you don't have something covering it. But it was enough for me to never dehydrate while I was out there. Never got a headache or felt nauseous. I was able to stay my body temperature regulated for the 4 days that I was out there. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have believed that I could gain information from that plant, from just asking a question and waiting on the answer. And that's one of the most important lessons I learned out there, but not the only lesson. So since then, I've had a special connection with that creosote plant. And I brought some of it today to share with each of you if you would like to take some home, although there's creosote growing all over the place. This creosote is a little special though, because I picked these plants to prepare my sweat lodge last night. And I used them to go into the lodge and pray and sweep the lodge before the people came in to do the ceremony. I also used the creosote, and I will just sweep the top of my lodge just to make sure that there isn't anything there that I don't want to be in the lodge with us when we're doing our prayers. And I always take a piece and I'll just tuck it into the lodge poles. And so when people come in, they have a clean lodge, not just clean, but also energetically clean. This plant is really, really good at clearing negative energy. So sometimes if you just are in a bad mood, or maybe you're feeling kind of tired and you don't, you just want a little pick-me-up, you can just take your face and just breathe in the medicine, and it automatically just raises your vibration. Some of the other things that I do with the creosote is I'll use it for tea. And I know some people say, well, it's too strong, you can't make tea. But I use about this much, sometimes half of that if I don't want to make a strong tea. And I just percolate a hot water through my coffee maker. And I drop this in the hot water, and it's enough for 1 pot. And I also add cinnamon and ginger to it just to give it a little nicer flavor. But this, as a tea, is very, very healing. The other thing that you can do with creosote is you can smudge with it. And when we talk about smudge, some people think of this. This is white sage. And they burn this and they smudge themselves with it. And this is really good for that. But sometimes there's energy that's tied to us that's a little harder to move along. And so when I do limpias, I take creosote and I smudge the person's entire body. And sometimes when I can feel that there's energy that's still not moving, I'll just kind of smack them with it a little bit and then keep brushing it down the body. And this starts to pull energy out of your etheric body that is just a little resistant to moving with something gentle like the white sage. Because this was used for the lodge, it has a little bit more of that prayer energy on it. And I do want to say that last night when we did the sweat lodge, everyone in the lodge prayed for each and every one of you today. We prayed that everyone that came here and would hear what I have to say would be blessed and would receive something that would help heal them today. So this creosote had a special purpose, and we don't waste anything, especially after we've prayed over it and we've asked it to heal. So I brought this today so that if any of you want to take some of this special creosote home, you can. It's funny because I try to give myself a little checklist of things that I want to talk about, because we don't really write out our speeches, we just kind of share what's on our heart. There were some things that I was like, maybe I should make sure I say these things. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is what we call ethical harvesting. Let's see. These sage bundles, sometimes you'll find them in stores, and a bundle like this might be $8 or $12. Smaller bundles are maybe a little less expensive, but this plant grows in our area in Southern California. Usually you can find it between Palm Springs and Idlewild. Somewhere right in between is where these plants will grow. And my suggestion to you is that if you like using plants like this and you find one, take what you need from that plant, but before you do, give it a little prayer, say thank you. We like to carry tobacco with us, and you just give that tobacco as an offering. If you don't have tobacco, you can use the water. Just give the plant a little bit of water. Some people do cornmeal in some tribes, but you can put trail mix down there and just say thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm going to take a little bit of medicine and I'm going to dry it and I'm going to use it for my home. And maybe you take just a few more bundles to give away to someone, because you want to, if you know people that use it, instead of them going to the store and buying it, which is kind of promoting over harvesting of these plants, just take a few little extra bundles and then give it to someone. Give it as a gift. Then you become their medicine person. They come to you and they say, do you have any more of that sage? Oh yeah, here's a bundle. And it was prayed over, and I said thank you for it. So now you're receiving those prayers. So ethical harvesting is very important, and the energy that you receive when you burn a plant that's been prayed over and thanked is so much more healing than if you were to just buy it from a store and the intention, the person that picked that plant was to make money, was to profit. Also, I want to say that when you find a plant and you do take some, you're helping that plant to maybe get rid of leaves that were dried that the plant isn't any good or isn't going to use anymore, or maybe being like too overgrown. I like to go harvest in late summer when all the leaves are starting to get dry and fall off the plant. I'll go out and I'll take the branches that are dry, and I'll take the bundles, the long stems that have the seeds at the top, and they're all dried out, and I'll break them, and then I'll take those seeds and I'll just spread them around, away from the plant. That way they don't have seeds growing right next to their roots and competing for water, but we're allowing those plants to kind of spread out and grow more. So ethical harvesting is really important. I will say, I will share this one other story about that. I recently went to a riverbed in Hemet where I harvest my medicine, and my family's been harvesting medicine for several years. And when I went, someone had taken plants and they just chopped the whole tops of the plants where the leaves were, and they just left, stems growing, sticking out of the ground. Maybe the plant will come back in a year or two if no one goes and harvests it again. But they left bundles of pieces of leaf just thrown there because they just did it as quickly as possible and they left. And so I began to gather the dried bundles or the dried leaves and just pray over my plant and just sing to her. Because some plants, they want songs as their offering. Maybe they don't need tobacco or they don't need water. Maybe they just want a song from you. That's what the creosote prefers. She prefers songs. But as I began to pray and gather that plant, she just told me that she felt violated. That she was just, they just came and they took, and they didn't give her anything back. They didn't even take care of her or clear the brush from around her. They just took and they left. And her feeling was of being violated. And I thought, someone is selling that to people. Someone is selling that emotion and that energy to people. And when we go in stores and we buy that, that's what we're buying. So when you find a plant that you connect with, that you take medicine, take care of that plant, and she will continue to give you medicine, not just for the rest of your life, but for your future generations. I looked at this photo earlier. Rhonda told me that was what it looked like. This is my family here. And you see all those creosote bushes there? They're still here. Hundreds of years later, thousands of years later. The creosote bush, the oldest living creosote bush that they have found was 20,000 years old. That medicine will continue to give us what we need as long as we take care of them. So many of these precious medicines are becoming endangered because of overharvesting. This is cedar. I go and I pick this up in Idlewild. This is dried, but what we do with the cedar is we crunch it down and we put it on the stones in the sweat lodge. This tobacco is what we use when we put down prayers. Sometimes we take the tobacco and we put it in the fire, and that smoke carries our prayers up to the Creator. Tobacco is a sacred plant. The people that came to my sweat lodge last night, they just brought me these. And this is the popal, we call it, and it's the sap that comes out of the trees. We put these on the stones when they come into the sweat lodge. We give all of those ancestors these sacred medicines because they're healing us. So, what we use when we bundle, and what you'll use when you bundle your medicine when you find it, is a cotton, 100% cotton yarn. We like the color red because red represents protection for us. I know I gotta move along, so let me take a look at what else I have to talk about on my list. I think that will pretty much cover it because I have two friends that I brought along with me, and they have something special that when I met these women, I was like, wow, they're doing things the way I would do them, and they have the mind about taking care of these medicines, about being ethical when they harvest, and they're both producing two different items that I think kind of paired really nicely with what I teach. Before I introduce them, I want to read to you my creosote poem. I'm going to give you this poem, and I'm going to read it from Libby's journal. I wrote this poem, and it just was recently published also in the Morongo newsletter. You can find it online, and if you are a member, they'll mail their newsletter to you. But this poem is called the Creosote Song, and I want to give you this, and this is the kind of like will end my part of the presentation. The Creosote Song. I stand here waiting in the sun, the wind, and in the rain. I stand here waiting throughout the darkest nights, the hues of the phases of the moon and under the stars at play. My roots extend far, wide, and deep beneath the earth, where timeless wisdom sleeps and ancient waters stir. I stand here waiting in the rain, my song a smell upon the breeze. It's called to a woman in her sleep, dreaming from healing from disease. She wakes and knows what should be done. She travels across the desert land, a song in her heart, a rattle in her hand. I stand here waiting in the rain as it brings me news of her approaching medicine. The earth trembles as her feet approach. Our meeting has been predestined. The woman greets me. I oblige her to sit on the ground among my branches. She offers many gifts of which she pulls out of her satchels. I refuse each one because they are all wrong. The only gift I require is the medicine of her song. 3 verses, nothing more. Sing them till your heart's restored. With her rattle she sang along and gave me the medicine of her song. After that, the woman learned all my medicine in return. So the next time you smell my song upon the rain, sing me a song and let's be friends. Thank you. All right, this is my friend Carrie. I'm going to let her talk to you today about what she does with creosote.
Hi, my name is Carrie Burke. I am Native Southern Californian. I am not Native American personally. I am married to a man of Native American descent. My children are Native American as well. But as a person with deep roots within this beautiful valley here, and specifically in this amazing desert, I've definitely grown relationships, not just with the people, but with the landscape and the plants and the rocks beneath her feet and the waters and the snow and the weather and the wind, as we all as humans with senses can do over time. I am a mother. I have 3 beautiful children that were all born here in this beautiful desert and natural birth. I am a very sensitive individual and have had many health issues in my life relating to things that are immune, things that create sensitivities by being in our wonderful, enigmatic, challenging world that we all live in. Over time, as I got older, medicines that were prescribed to me from doctors started presenting bigger challenges than the actual illness that I was trying to treat. In my efforts as an early teenager, trying to heal my skin using Western pharmaceuticals, I found myself in jeopardy, challenging the health of my children that I had yet to conceive if I continued on this healing path of Western medicine. I've tried every topical steroid, I've tried every injectable immunosuppressant, every cortico pharmaceutical, every new salve, every doctor's guarantee, and yet I still have this illness after 40 years. When I realized that I was putting my future children in jeopardy and that this is something that was very real for me as I became of age to then have children, I started finding myself searching for better alternatives. And since I couldn't find medicine for myself out there in the world, I started looking into more kitchen type remedies to heal myself, as everyone who ever came before me also did. Thank you for that, because now look at this full room. We have all made it into the future, a dream of your ancestors come to life. And so with that, I started to experiment with what I had around me, because one of the lessons I've learned is that I don't need to go out to find the answer always comes from within, right? So that's a very spiritual thing that I think we all have found to be true in some way personally. As I started looking at, my husband and I had a home up in the high desert of Yaqui Mesa, where Landers and Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree all can coincide and meet. And what I noticed is in front of my home, I had this enormous creosote, enormous, and the squirrels had made homes under it, and it was just epic. Completely unfettered by the surrounding territory, which was also big and beautiful and prosperous. And I started remembering over the years how much we love the smell, right? When it rains, everybody is so happy because of why? Because of the smell of the rain. But what is that? What is that? It's not just the petrichor. It's not just the soil beneath your feet, because when you leave the desert, does it smell the same? No, it doesn't. What I learned, because for me, although I am not Native American by ancestry, I do have deep spiritual connection within myself, but I'm also extremely interested in the science. And so what my duty has become, or what I've learned, is I can bridge the gap between the spirituality and the science, and that's my gift. So what I've been able to do in studying and researching my this beautiful, amazing plant, I've learned a few things. Number one, this plant is a superhero. This plant has phytochemicals in it that are they are anti-fungal, antiviral, anti-MRSA, right? This antibacterial, so that covers the whole broad range. Over 40% of its active ingredient is created, there's just like one chemical that this plant puts out, and over 40% of its weight is that actual chemical. And just like us, our actual worth is not in our physical body, but in the wisdom that we have accumulated over time. If I want to know something incredibly important, do I ask my 5-year-old? Maybe not. I might seek out an older individual. And in the same way, what I've learned is that the beauty of this plant is not necessarily in the new growth, although it is extremely important. The most important thing that I use for my medicine comes from the older leaves that are about to drop off. That is the point of its medicinal value. It's accumulated all of the chemicals that it has put out during its lifetime, and it has survived this last season and provided medicine for itself to continue to flourish into the future. The king clone of this plant, there's a king clone preservation area that you will have to look deeply to find, but it exists unlabeled up in the Lucerne Valley. And the king clone ring, because this plant grows as a seed and then its roots go out in a circle, and as the inner part dies, because that part is no longer viable for the plant's growth, the new growth that is created for this next period of time then grows out in rings. So the way that they carbon date this plant is by going to the very center of the ring, and from that point they can see how old this plant is. King clone is 11,000 years old. The last ice age, as it melted, it still exists. And every single plant within the Mojave Desert is a clonal replica, identical. to the original king clone. This Mojave plant has more genetic diversity than any other species of creosote. We'll call it Laria tridentata, which is its scientific name. It has more genetic diversity than any other grove, including the Sonoran Desert, which makes this an incredibly special plant. Yet it's everywhere. It dominates. It dominates every single environment that it finds itself in, and it creates a sanctuary for itself. And at a time, especially with such extreme environments as we find ourselves in, this plant can offer us a sanctuary to heal within ourselves when we need it. So what I have done for myself is I've created a salve that I use for not only myself, but my children and my dogs and everything. And I started with myself and my friend, good friend of mine. She is also from this area, grew up here. She is a massage therapist, now with her own private practice. And she asked me to, I shared it with her, and she asked me to make some for her to use in her own private practice. She now has a storefront, so I offer a little extra for our other friends, because obviously not everybody has time to go pick the plant and dry the plant and then create the medicine and package the medicine for their own use. So without desire to grow big or capitalize or commercialize or profiteer from the plant itself, making it available for the people within our community who maybe don't have the opportunity to heal themselves, maybe don't have the education or the knowledge to be able to figure out the best way to do it. So I offer this. I have several people who I share it with, who offer it through their own company as like a special additive. But I do want to make a special note here, because this is not a secret. This salve is something that we can all make for ourselves. And if you find that you cannot make it for yourself, then there are outlets available for you to be able to receive the medicine as well. I do want to make a very special note about the plant, and that is that the understanding that we only take what the plant can handle. We only take from the plant what the plant has to offer us. We leave the new growth alone. We take the old dead leaves that are going to be scattered into the wind, and you only take a small amount from each plant. This gives the plant the opportunity to thrive, because 11,000 years old, if you're taking all the leaves, how is it going to live? That's not the point. We don't want to exploit the plant. We want to participate in its cohabitation, because we're the visitors. The plant's not going to walk away and go on a cruise and go visit their grandchildren, you know? Although they have their own neural network, and they're all very deeply connected. And if you can find it within yourself to be able to open and receive the messages of the plant, they are very chatty. And they love to speak and commune with us, especially when they can receive our energy, and we come, to be of benefit to the plant instead of its detriment. So I just want to close by thanking you all for caring in the first place. I think that we live in a land of treasure, and whether we're aware of it or not, every step you take is on a complete sea of treasure, depending on how close you look. Everything that this land gives us is a gift. Everything that this land gives us is a dream. Everything that this land gives us has something sacred in it that we are so disconnected from that we don't even perceive how good we have it. And so just honoring yourself, that you are literally floating on top of a crystalline palace in front of sacred mountains that create this beautiful environment for us to come to and join together in and be safe from all these other crazy experiences that everywhere else seems to experience. But as our safe harbor, I just hope to inspire you to appreciate just where you are. We don't need to go out to find more beauty. We need to look closer to see what's already here and appreciate everything beneath our feet. You know, quartz crystal resonates. It creates its own light under pressure. Radios use the pressure of crystals in order to transmit their frequency. These are not foreign concepts. Spirituality is not limited to religion. It's not related to Native American ancestry. They just didn't forget. They just didn't forget. So I encourage you to remember these things that you already know. And just know that you are literally breathing, floating, walking, magical, beautiful being. And we can heal ourselves using the protection that we're already very fully aware of and living within. So I encourage you to walk around, touch the plants, say hi to them because they remember you. And take medicine for yourself. Encourage others to participate in the life that surrounds them. And please support the people who are not leaving. Everybody leaves, but who stays? Who is staying? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to be here. It never was easy to be here. That's not the point. The point is not it being easy. The point is survival, maintenance, care, preservation. So please shop local. Please participate in local activities. Please support the people who are here. I also live at Sam's Family Spa and have a very similar etheric experience for what brought me there as well. And I just want you to remember that you're being spoken to, whether you choose to hear it or not. So turn within, accept that you are divine, accept that you are part of this beautiful creation, you are needed, you are loved, right? The plants, you breathe on them, guess what? They love that carbon dioxide that comes out of your face. Okay, so you are a gift. You are a living, walking gift. You are a prayer. Bringing a little bit of water. Did you know that the water holds memory?
Yeah.
You can, there's people right now that are studying water and putting images under the water and freezing it, crystallography, freezing it, and the water shows the image that it was programmed with.
Yeah, I always pray to my water before I give it to the plant, because I want that plant to have that prayer. And water holds memory. She's absolutely right about that.
So I'm going to give this back to Sewa. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
I do want to point out, before I have Libby come and talk about her journal, that before you leave, if you want to take a look at any of the information on the table, a lot of the science that she was talking about is I have gathered some of that information here. And this book, I told someone the story about the creosote teaching me about staying hydrated in the desert. And she came back to Sam's and gave me this book. And she said, exactly what you experienced, you've written a whole book about that. And it's called Secret Life of Plants and about how plants communicate with us. So after our presentation, if you want to take a look or take pictures of those, you're more than welcome to. And with that, I want to introduce Libby. Libby's a good friend of mine. I've known her for several years now as well. She has come to my house and experienced my limpias and probably been smudged or smacked with that creosote.
There was some smacking.
All right, Libby, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. My sort of connection to all of this is that I am a graphic designer by trade, and I spent a lot of time working first in nonprofits in environmental conservation and social justice and a little bit of preservation, historic preservation. And I eventually left that world to start out on my own and become a designer because I was missing a creative element there and also a little bit of stability. Turns out being a freelancer is no more stable than working for a series of nonprofits, but it's been really fulfilling for me. But I kind of missed being part of the solution in a bigger way. And so I've been looking for ways to do that through the work that I'm still doing. And some of that is by serving nonprofits as their graphic designer. But also I've begun starting to make some products that I want to sell that will help fund contributions to those organizations. I learned well during my time there that, you know, all the things that you sign for them and things like that are valuable, but they also need a lot of money to do the hard work that they're doing, to make sure that our world is preserved for us and that we have the best kind of quality of life that we can. And so I want to be able to give back in that way too. So I've dedicated to giving a portion of my profits from all of these products to nonprofits that work on reforestation and conservation, and also defending the rights of Native people to access their traditional land and resources. So this is the very first one that I've made. And I was hoping to have copies of it for you today, but they will be delivered later today. So I brought my author copy, and then I have some information if you want to look up where to get it. But I made the cover with photography that I did around here myself. And then the inside of it is designed for keeping track of wild plants that you forage for. The first pages are Sewa's lovely poem that she just read to us, because she gave me some inspiration about what kind of plants to feature in here and what things would be useful in a foraging journal, so I'm really grateful to her for contributing. But it just has pages for recording where you harvested and how much, so that you can make sure you're not over visiting the same areas and taking too much from the same plants, and places to make notes. And then these are all like hand-drawn illustrations that are based on plants that we have in our local area. And then there are some blank spreads for just kind of open-ended use. I find that a lot of journals have so much structure that it comes to feel like kind of an assignment where you're answering questions that someone made up, and I did not want to do that with it. I wanted it to be very open-ended and flexible. And the reason that I feel like I can make a difference with graphic design is because images can speak to an emotional part of our brains that is responsible for deeper decision making than the just practical information that we might get from reading a passage or an ad. Images, especially images that we see as beautiful or evocative, connect with us on a level that governs deeper decisions. And so I want to use graphic design to tap into that in people and kind of speak to the best part of them and inspire them to make good decisions. So I'm starting to build out an area on my website that's full of inspirational material. It includes these, but also a lot of things that people can download and take for free, some playlists of music that is inspirational, and I want to use it as a way to kind of help resource people to make those better and more sustainable decisions, because it's hard. It's a little hard to think about how big these environmental problems are that we're facing and how difficult they're going to be to solve and whether we can really make any difference, and it's easy to become overwhelmed by that and just slip back into the status quo. And so I want to help people find that strength to do a little better in that area. And I'm hoping to use beautiful artwork and design to do that, and also raise money to do that. So that's the intention. I do have some information here where you can find the journal, and then also the link to my website where I'm going to be building and growing all of this stuff. So this is just kind of the first piece of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It features some aloe vera that grows locally, and these flowers are the flowers of the creosote bush, which isn't flowering in this piece right here, but you've all, I'm sure, seen it. Lovely little yellow flowers with like little puff balls on them. So it was a lot of fun to go out and take photographs of all of our local plant life and then draw the illustrations, and it kind of deepened my appreciation for it too. So yeah.
Thank you, Libby.
Thank you.
I was really inspired by Libby's idea for a journal because my mom has a book that she will write down. Like we're talking today, if she finds out a new way to use a plant that she hasn't known in the past, she will grab something, she'll write it down, and she'll tell you like, okay, and then what do you do, and how much of that do you put in that tea, and what can you pair it with, and she'll get all the information she can, and then she goes home and she has a book that she will find that section for that plant, and she'll write it down. Because my mom is a healer, so when people come to her and they say, oh, I have ulcer, or I have UTI, or something that's bothering her, she'll go, oh wait, I know something that can help you, and then she'll grab her book and she'll go, okay, UTI, here's what you can do for that, and she'll be able to give them 3 or 4 different remedies or plants that she knows will help that. My great-grandmother had a big garden in her backyard, and people would come to see her, and she lived in the middle of East LA, but she had all these plants growing, and when people would come over, neighbors or relatives or friends, she'd go, hold on, and she'd go in her backyard and she would gather plants, and then she'd bring those plants back, and she would say, okay, this is what you're gonna do with this plant, and this is a whatever she called it, and this is how you're gonna make what you're gonna do with this plant. And so her whole pharmacy was just her yard full of plants. And so that's been my inspiration to reteach that sacred knowledge, because it's not just Native Americans that use plants to heal ourselves. Everyone did. All of us did. All of our ancestors didn't have a pharmacy to go to. You know what their pharmacy was? Creosote. That's literally like the pharmacy of the desert. So I just want to thank all of you for listening, and for you ladies coming and helping me with this presentation. I'm so honored that you agreed to come and talk about what you're producing that is helping bring this knowledge back to people in a way that is accessible, in a way that is easy. And I want to thank all of you for listening and putting up with all my stories today. I hope that you got something from what I shared today. That's just, that was the prayer I had coming here today. So thank each and every one of you. I can. I also want to let you guys know that I brought some dried sage. You can come and gather some leaves. I have little bags if you want to take any of these sage leaves. Also cedar, and of course the creosote. But yes, I have, if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Yes.
Not a question so much as a thank you. I don't know if the name Richard Milanovich means anything to any of you here. He was the tribal chairman of the Agua Caliente Bandicoot Indians for about 30 years. And I had the pleasure of working with him. I'm writing a book on him at the moment. But while I was working with him, I went up to Indian Canyons with him with the film crew. I was just recovering from bronchitis, and he said, he pointed to the creosote and he said, that is our pharmacy. You take some of that and you make a tea, and it'll cure you.
Yes.
What I thank you for is, you indicated you, at one point you had a little piece.
Yes.
This is what you would, well, I did not know that. I made a big bunch of it, and it was so horrible. I thought it's gonna kill me. So now I know just a tiny bit. So thank you for that.
This is all you need. It'll cure
Yeah,
cough,
I learned
it'll cure
something important.
a cold or flu. Yeah, this much. And look at all the creosote we have growing in there. We could cure the world, you know? Yes, you had a question over here?
Oh, no, I'm Rand's daughter, so also grew up with creosote everywhere. I have a sister who moved up north to Sacramento where there isn't creosote. And she misses it so much that she's had my mom mail her bundles of it that she hangs in her shower to steam her shower, not quite like a sweat lodge, but a similar mentality, I think. So I just wanted to ask if that's a practice that anybody does, like keep it in their home for that type of purpose.
Yeah, so I will say that Rhonda shared that with us as I was setting up, and I never heard that, but I'm definitely gonna try it because it sounds amazing. I have crystals in my bathtub, and I'm on the same well water as Sam's, so I fill that tub with hot water and I just soak in there with all my crystals around me. But now I'm gonna put creosote in there too. That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. See, that's why you need a journal. I'm gonna be like, gonna write that in my harvest journal. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, I talk to my plants, and everyone says, well, what do you do to your plants? I said, I talk to them, I name them, and I was sad one day, and I have a weeping willow, and I was crying, and the leaf came from my back, and they're wrapped around me.
Oh my
Whoa.
And I had that tree for like 25 years, but,
Yeah.
and I never cut that. I usually cut the weeping willow because they get too long, but I kept that one
Oh,
branch.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Wow.
Yes, Randa?
I have a question about the tea. Do you use the fresh green part tips or do you use the dried tips?
So what I was told was because the medicine is so strong, like Carrie had explained, I use fresh leaves, and I was told by the plant, at least for when my mom had COVID, I had to make her creosote tea, and what the plant told me was that as the medicine comes up the center of the plant, it goes out to the outermost branches. So if you don't want to use a tea that's really strong, you're going to take from the outer branches, the new ones, the fresh ones. If you want your tea to be stronger, you come in closer to the center, and the leaves that are closer to the center will be stronger. But this is such a strong medicine that you don't need a lot of it. And I was really interested to learn what Carrie had talked about, the leaves that are the oldest and the driest have the most amount of medicine in them, and they're good for using for salve when you're going to soak them in like oils and things like that. So yeah, use the fresh ones, but if you need a stronger tea, use the leaves closer to the center, and then the weaker out in the ends.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are we all done? Okay.
Thank you so much again. And guest speakers, let's give the guest speakers a round. I love your presentation. So again, I'm MJ. We have a couple of wonderful events coming up. We've got our last, fifth in the series of History Speaks lecture on March 1st. It's actually going to be little old me, and I'm going to bring a couple of friends to talk to you about the entrepreneurs of Desert Hot Springs. And then we have a wonderful oral historian that's going to talk about how you might want to record some of your history or your family's history, and how to go about doing that. So that will be, and also Irene Rodriguez from Cabot's will be doing a little bit on Cabot, one of our most famous entrepreneurs. But there are many others that I can't wait to tell you about in Desert Hot Springs. Then April 16th is our second and last in our series this year of soup suppers. It's April 16th, 5:30, Miracle Springs. Carrie Berman will talk on Desert Hot Springs, the history of health and wellness. So please come out, mark those on your calendar. Keep checking our website, which we are designing a brand new website. There won't be any break in the website on your end, but it will look different if you keep checking in the next month or two. We'll have all that information on our new website. Don't forget, if you are interested in buying one of our books, it is a fundraiser for us, so please do think about purchasing a book. And we have, Junko, if you would raise your hand, she's in the back, she will take your money. If you don't happen to be a member and you'd like to join us, boy, are we moving and grooving here. We're the Rock House, historic Rock House. And we would love to have you as one of our members, and please do think about coming out and doing the V word with us, be a volunteer, because we really love it. All right. That being said, I want to just thank you for your support. This is just, I look out over this room and every single chair is filled, and it warms my heart. So bring a friend. Thank you so much for coming out today.
I'm Jay. I am a new face. I just moved here 2 months ago from Chicago. Colleen Maccabee. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, there's a little girl there that goes straight to
I'm not.
Okay. So I really,